Okay. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So, last the class, do you have any questions? We'll sort of do a revision sort of thing now. So you can ask me if you have any questions. I'm not going to do any worksheets as such today. So if you have got any questions from all of the topics that we've discussed, we may take that up a bit. If there were any questions that you found difficult to answer or any topics that you felt, you know, difficult for you to understand, anything that you did not know from all the 12 weeks of this thing, except for the writing modules, because anyway, the questions from the writing modules are of a different kind. You don't get descriptive questions, but something on the lectures, right? Things that have been discussed in the lectures may be asked. Just follow the pattern, the graded assignments that you have for them. But besides that, any questions that you have, you may ask. If there were anything particularly, maybe say in an exam or something, please do tell me. Because I think most of the topics are already covered. We did take up most of them. We got an additional 1 week for English to this time because we started off early. So I'll keep this session open for you to ask me any questions if you have before uh, this Sunday is your exam, right?
Ma'am, ma'am, you please revise the topics, main topics.
No, you tell me what you want me to revise. Of course, I cannot take everything. That's not how it will work. If there are specific topics that you have a question on, then I can maybe talk about it. Not all of it for sure. Anything that you think you had any questions on, anything that you are particularly confused with, that we can do. Revising all the 12 weeks is impossible in one. Is there anything like a topic or something that you were confused with, something maybe that you've scored low on your quizzes or something where you missed the questions, something of that sort you can ask. How did you do for the last quiz though? No, Anshi, we usually don't do that kind of revision sessions for English because we anyway have a lot, many sessions running which are based on these. So it just looks very repetitive to us to do that. You anyway get the mock also, right? So we keep it open so that people can ask questions, which is why I told you you can ask me if you have any questions. Any topic that we have discussed either in the sessions or if there's anything that, see, most of the topics are related to grammar for English too, with I think 4 modules on writing. So writing, you need to watch the lectures. You definitely have to know what the content for those lectures are because you'll get questions from them. It's just that you won't get anything to write descriptively because we do not have the provision to ask you descriptive questions. Most of it is the MCQ pattern, right? Most of them are in the MCQ pattern.
Ma'am, whether or if, like, definite rule on whether or if, like.
It is mostly three things that we look at for if and whether. Just a second. Just give me a second. Yeah. So if and whether, you need to look at the if and whether clauses. So usually, three rules are the ones that you normally say. They're not rules. They're basically the way the sentences are constructed when you use an if and whether clause, if there's a presence of an if and whether clause. So, post a preposition. So, let's take these three examples. We try and find out the examples. Just give me a moment. We'll try to look at that worksheet and see if I can use the same two documents exercise. Check. Uh, Okay, so if you look at the chat, we have four questions, and I have not used a different sentence. I think it's something that we've discussed already while we were doing the session on and weather groups. So if you look at those four sentences you have here, and I think this question was based on judging the grammaticality of the sentence. So it's basically trying to check whether the sentences are constructed grammatically or not, right? It's a good sentence in English. So, what is your grammaticality judgment for the first one? And I cannot decide whether I should buy this phone. This is a whether clause, right? Has a whether clause. So, is this right? What do you think about its grammaticality? I cannot decide whether I should buy this. So
I
normally the
mean,
test is if you, you know, um, if the conjunction, the subordinating conjunction, if or whether is followed by, a complete sentence, right? Like in this case, I should buy this phone. In such cases, you could either use if or whether. Grammaticality is intact, whether you use whether or if, right? So in the sentence you have whether, you could also replace it with if. So that isn't a problem. That nothing happens to the grammaticality of the sentence. It remains intact. Uh, but the next three sentences, if you take a look at it, no, I'm not sure if to get a car. Now, these are the kind of sentences that can run into problems. So, if your subordinating conjunction, which is if in the sentence uh, number two, or I'm not sure if to get a new car, it's followed by a to infinitive or what's also called the bare form of the verb, right? V1. If there is a to infinitive verb, to plus the bare form of the verb following your subordinating conjunction, then it should be whether, not if, right? So it's a wrong grammatical construction. Again, um, conventionally, it's a wrong sentence. Of we cannot go into the details of why it is wrong because we do not deal with sentence processes and mechanisms here. We have to take it plainly for that matter. But then keep it in mind that if it is followed by a to infinitive, then the conjunction you use has to be whether. So you should say, I'm not sure whether to get a new car, not if to get a new. Okay? So this is the first thing. First rule is about the to infinitive. It needs to be preceded by the whether conjunction, right? Not the if. Then there are confusions about, it's the second one. If you have a preposition that precedes your subordinating conjunction, then it has to be, the conjunction to be used again is whether, right? There are confusions about whether the jury would rule in his favor, not um, if the jury would rule in his favor, right? So in both these cases, before an infinitive verb to infinitive verb, and after um, preposition, the preferred conjunction, subordinating conjunction is whether and not if. These are two rules. And then the third one is with respect to the use of the phrase or not. Okay. So if or not is used in the sentence medial positions, when it is joining two parts of the sentence, two phrases in a sentence, like in this case, the problem is if or not. So in such case, when or not is, in a medial position, you use whether, right? The actual grammatical sentence should read like, The problem is whether or not. Okay. But if you move it towards the end of the sentence, so or not as a phrase moves to the end of the sentence, then you could either use if or whether, right? So you could say the problem is if we can submit the proposal today or not. And you just rewrite the sentence here so that you can understand it better. Or not has to go at the end. If or whether or not. Okay. So if this is the case, if your um, or not phrase moves to the end of the sentence, then it could be either if or whether. The problem is if we can submit the proposal today or not. The problem is whether we can submit the proposal today or not. So that choice is just left to the person, depending on whether your context is formal or informal. If it's an informal context, then you say that the problem is if we can submit the proposal today or not. If you want to make it more formal, right, uh, then you use whether. So these are the three different variations you have for the if and whether clause. Not variations, these are three grammaticality judgments associated with them on whether the given sentence that contains an if and whether clause is actually grammatically constructed or not. Okay. Who asked this question? Is this clear to you? Who asked this question? Somebody, I did not see your name. Person is not available anymore. Okay. Okay. Anyway, rest of the people who are in the call, have you understood this one? Right. All right. I hope it is clear. But let's move on to the next question. Related to the rule of tense changing in the passive sentences from active sentences. So what is you need to follow the passive verb morphology. Usually always be plus the V3 form, right? Whatever verb you have, whatever tense it is, you need to change the verb to the B plus V3 format in uh, the passive sentence. Okay, this is called the passive verb morphology. You change the verb to this format, you will have B plus V3, the passive form. Um, and remember, the intransitive verbs are not going to have a passive sentence because it doesn't have an object, right? So there is no movement that can take place. You cannot, you don't have an entity to move to the subject position, right? Cannot do that. Um, whatever tense you have, right, whether it is simple present tense or simple past, simple future, or the progressive forms, continuous forms, and the perfective forms, all you do is that you convert the uh, verb in the passive sentence to the be plus V3. V3 is past participle, popularly referred to as past participle. Um, but the V3 form of the verb is what you're going to use here, be plus V3. Okay, one sheet. You can try using some of them here. Okay, I think I had it in one of the worksheets, but uh, I don't remember which session it was. Let me try and see. Should be either 7 or 8. Just give me a moment. I've not used all of them, I think, in that table because yeah, it's here. I'll just show you. I'll share the screen and show you. This one doesn't have all of it because passive sentences, although they are structurally possible in all the tenses, but their actual use or um, while people would actually use them in their day-to-day conversations or other forms of speech, they may not reflect all the forms of the tense, right? So I think I have only put forth the ones which are commonly seen or regularly used in conversation. So I hope you can see the screen. So some format of the passive verb morphology uh, would be these. Okay. So B plus B3. This is how they may change. You just need to know the B plus B3. This is the format. And whatever the tense, however the tense changes in your active sentence, you just need to apply it. Okay. So uh, simple present tense changes to is, are, opened, right? Simple past changes to was, were, and the V3, whichever the verb is, right? The V3 form of that verb. Is, are, seeking, which is the continuous form, changes to is, are, being, verb plus V3. V3 of the given verb, that is. Has, have, had, given, we has, have, had, been given. Will deliver, will be delivered. So this is how the passive morphology looks like for the verbs in its, for the sentences in its passive form. Okay. Yeah. Right. Anything else? Any other topics that you have had?
Ma'am, finding the most appropriate conversation in a social or some in social context. Like this question, there are many questions asked like this, no?
I know that. Telephonic conversations, right? So you need to see some of the markers that they may have is you need to look for the modality markers, right? Epistemic modality markers. So uh, the most polite response, they basically testing when they ask you a question like that in a socially appropriate context. Obviously, the most polite form or the one with the most honorifics are going to be the appropriate, right? So one of it would be looking for markers, modality markers, and particularly the one which marks politeness, right? Like could or would or might, right? You'll have the presence of such modal verbs in the responses which are meant to be socially appropriate. So that is one thing that you can look at. Okay. And obviously, you can eliminate the most curt responses. Some of them are they just outright curt and uh, very impolite and rude, right? Something that you would have a dismissive approach to even when using, even when used for your friends. So that certainly you can eliminate in the first go. Then something that looks like not a response to the question asked is obviously the wrong answer. You should not be using that as well. Probably you're left with one or two. One with maybe the non-formal version with can or will or other modal verbs, but the other form with could, would, may, with the more polite forms, more polite modality. So your answers would be mostly that consist of these modalities, right? The ones which are used to impart politeness in the sentence. That should be in each of those cases. Usually, those are the answers. So that's the easiest part of your exam, to be honest. Those 5 marks are like an easy given thing. Just look for the modality. Any
Ma'am,
context,
what
professor
ma'am, what
talking to a student or a customer talking to the receptionist. Every such context, the social appropriateness is actually imparted through the use of modality verbs. Yeah.
ma'am, what filter we use if two confusing options are there?
You should that's exactly what I just told you. That's the markers I was talking about. You need to look
Modality
for these
markers. Okay.
markers. Yeah.
Okay.
Look for these modality markers.
Okay, ma'am.
Usually it's like that, right? And they tell you exactly what the problem is. Most of the other responses would be too terse and small, right? They just tell you random things. They do not even tell you what the point is. So that's the semantic part, right? Uh, but more importantly, I think a way better way to look at is to look for these modality marks. They mostly are usually present in only one of the options. This is not how you do it, of course, and that shouldn't be the way you should be doing it. Also, you should read and understand from the sentence which one is more polite version than the other one. But since you asked me how do I identify what are the reference points, then this is what I can tell you for the modality markers. The one which has the maximum of them would be the social work appeal.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. When will be the mock for interim release expected date? Is it not released already? If it is not, I think they would release it by Wednesday at least. Tomorrow, that is. Please check if it is not released already. It should be, I think. Yeah. Right. What other questions do you have? How are you doing on the clauses? Uh, you should be able to identify the subordinate clauses. You should know what type of a clause, what kind of a clause is used in the given sentence. What functions do they perform? Are they noun clauses, adjectival clauses, or adverbial clauses? Those questions you should be. I hope that part is because I think a lot of questions are asked from that part of the syllabus also. I do not know, Vanshi. That's what I just asked you. Is it not already released? If not, then I think you can expect it by tomorrow. And if you do not get it, then you should write to the discourse, right? You may leave a question on the discourse. Is it not released already? Monday, I think, usually is the time that they release. Have you not got it yet? Okay, then wait until tomorrow. If they are not releasing it even tomorrow, then you can write to the discourse. Okay, someone will make a note of that and respond to you. Yeah, figures of speech. I know there's a bit of a trouble with that, but these are skills that you develop over a period of time, and that requires you to do more beyond just looking at the questions that you have, right? We try to keep the questions as simple as possible. This time around, it is instructed that questions that are more poetic in nature may not be asked, but uh, you need to strive to make this, a more rewarding activity. You need to learn a little more. So read a little beyond what you already do for the course. Just do not concentrate on the questions that you have for practice questions. This is not just for getting a good grades for this exam or just getting past this one. The aim is also that you become confident users of the language, right? So functional is okay. Knowing the grammar is also okay. Knowing the structure is also fine. But then they seldom come handy when you need to communicate, right? So for that, you need to do other things. You need to read, you need to listen, and figures of speech and all are those. They at least belong to that rubric of the. Yeah, they belong to that particular aspect of the language, which makes your communication more impressive, more creative, and more meaningful. So figures of speech and all, they belong to advanced proficiency. So in the exam, you may not have a lot of difficulty with it if you have already learned them, at least paid attention to the lecture and have, once glanced through the slides at least. But keep this in mind that they're not enough. That kind of learning is not enough. Add more content to your learning. Please read more. Please watch more, listen. Try to be more critical. When you're watching, don't just passively watch or read. Try to also be a little critical about the content that you're. Critical means you should be able to formulate an opinion of what you're saying, good or bad. Why is it good? Why is it bad? That helps you a lot to improve your language skills. And these things may not be something that we can do in the limited hours that we interact with you. Some of it is also self learning. But of course, if you need any help at some point, we can always help you with at least referring good materials to this, or directing you to certain sources that can help you build that skill. So all that is a possibility, but of course, a lot of self-learning also goes into the aspect of language. You need to remain motivated to do this. But besides that, any other thing? I think what else? Conditionals we already did, right? In the not the last week. Last week we could not have the class, but the week before that, I think we discussed conditions, if I'm not wrong. Quantifiers and all, they're very easy. There's nothing to discuss on that. You need to again look through all the slides that you have, PPT that you have had. So, particularly the ones that are used for, you know, let me see. I'll see if I have the PPT with me so that I can quickly look through what is important. Okay, so in quantifiers, I think yeah, this PPT that you have, I think is very it's quite comprehensive, right? So you have very detailed. All of them are mentioned. So you have quantifiers that use for large quantities, right? Like many, and the negations of them as well, like not many. Other variations like many of, as many as many. So combinations with the word many, right? And then you have very many, so many, great many, too many, lot many uh, variations of the same. So quantify is used for to indicate large quantities. Guys, just give me a moment. Too much background. Okay, so yeah, so quantifiers for large quantities, right? Indicative of large quantities. We know them, but you need to be careful about how you use them in a sentence, right? So use of many and much is one such area where people run into a lot of confusion. So can you use very much? Can you use very many? Uh, can you say so much, so many? All of, the usage based questions could be a bit more from that part. Again, asking you whether a given sentence is grammatical or not, right? But more than that, you need to know why something is right or wrong. So, in quantifiers, particularly knowing the concept of countable and uncountable nouns are very important, right? So, a lot of answers or a lot of expressions that indicate quantities, right? They depend on the property of the noun involved, the class of the noun involved, whether it's countable or uncountable. So that knowledge is important for you. Uh, so quantifiers for large quantities, then you have a lot of constructions with much. Then quantifiers for large quantities that are used with both countable and uncountable nouns. So some of those expressions are the ones which can go with both the uh, type of nouns, right? So examples include a lot of and lots of, right? uh, these two expressions, they go with a lot of nouns, because again, they are used with both countable and uncountable nouns. So like you can say they have got a lot of money. You can also say that the dancers wore a lot of bangles, right? So bangles being countable and money being uncountable, you see that the expression goes with both. So some of these expressions you need to make a note of, right? You probably know them already, but just brush up before you go to the exam. Then smaller quantities, you need to know the difference between few, a few, right? Little, a little. So that is, I think, most of the exams we've had questions on this: a few and little and a little, right? So both are used with, sorry, a few is used with, few and a few would be used with countable nouns. Little and a little would be used with uncountable, right? And you should know the meanings of them. And when I say a few, I'm saying there's still some quantity, a little, less, but yes, it's still there. When I say few, I'm saying nothing. Okay, similarly with little, the same case. When I say a little, then I am saying that, yeah, there is some, right? There's some. But little means nothing. So, example, little knowledge is dangerous, right? Negative meaning. Then what else? Smaller quantities again. You have, yeah, you have other expressions like a bit, bits, etc. to indicate smaller quantities. Then quantifiers to express sufficient amount. Okay, this is also something that's important. So expressions like enough, plenty of, Anita has plenty of toys, or we have enough food for the evening. So these are all expressions. They show you, they help you express the mm, presence of a sufficient amount of a given uh, noun, right? And this can be used with both countable and uncountable nouns. So I can say we have enough food for the evening. I can also say, should we buy more bread? No, there's plenty, right? So uh, both of these cases you had uncountable nouns, but they can also be used with countable nouns. Some other expressions like heaps of, loads of, or a load of. Example, we have heaps of cookies at our home, or there is loads of time left for my trip to Shimla. Make it quick. You have a load of work to be finished before the weekend, right? All these expressions, heaps of, loads of, a load of, enough, plenty of, they're all indicative of um, a quantity in sufficient amount, right? And they can be used with both countable and countable nouns. Some is another such expression, but some is used with non-specific amounts. Okay, not specific amounts, but non-specific amounts. We should know, right? When you talk about subjects that are indefinite, or what comes through as indefinite pronouns, right? Somebody, something, somewhere, or anybody, anywhere, uh, or everybody. These are all what they're usually referred to as indefinite pronouns, wherein you do not know, you're not sure. You know there is something, but you're not very sure of what the exact quantity is. So when non-specific quantity, non-specific amounts have to be indicated, then you have expressions such as some, any, right? Mostly some and any for us. So you say, I have some money with me. You're saying that, okay, there's something, but a non-specific amount of something, right? And some is mostly used with what? They're used with affirmative sentences, positive sentences. Any has the same job to do, again, is indicative of non-specific amount of something, but they usually are used in negative or interrogative sentences, right? So you have a sentence like, is there any milk left? Expected answer is what? No. Right? Is there any milk left? No. So uncountable and interrogative use, right? Uncountable noun, milk is uncountable here, and then it's an interrogative construction. That is, it's a question sentence, right? Then there weren't any cans left in the tray. There weren't any cans left in the tray. This is a negative sentence, right? So any is something that you can only license in a negative context, right? It usually doesn't come in a positive. It doesn't appear in any affirmative sentence. It's licensed to be used only in the negative context. So here again, cans are countable, right? But any can only be used in the negative context. Again, indicative of non-specific amounts of something. We don't know. Any cans. We are not specific about how many cans. We're just saying any cans, right? Then what other expressions? Yeah, quantifiers which we use for both countable and uncountable nouns. So expressions such as all of, or no, or more of, more and more, they're all used along with both countable and countable nouns. Then what else? Yeah, to that list you can add most of the most, less, less of, less and less, like like more of, and more. You can use less, less of, less and less, used with both countable and countable nouns. Uh, then the ones only used with countable nouns, you should know them as well. Several, both, either and neither. Uh, all these expressions are used with only countable nouns, right? You should have something to count in there. So, example, there are several flaws in the document. So, you're able to count it, right? Countable noun, several flaws. Not exact number, you don't know. Again, it's not a specific entity, specific amount, sorry. But then you know that it's countable, several flaws. Then she teaches both my children, again countable. She teaches both of my children, again countable. Um, they both are from the same department. Both of them are from the same department, right? Ashwin plays both chess and basketball. So nouns are all countable in this case, right? All of them are countable in this case, although not specific. Then neither ring fits me. So there's a choice. You had two choices and both of them don't fit, right? Negative answers. Neither parent signed, neither parent signed the application form. So one of the two should have, but they did not, right? Again, choice. So countable again. Either and either of also work in the same way. Either bag or either bag, however you would like to say it. Either bag will be okay as they both have sling. So again, there's a choice involved. Okay, but in the positive, you have chosen one. In the last, the expression with neither, you did not choose any. That's the only difference. Either of the boys can go with the team. So again, selection. There were two, and then one of them could go. Each of, and every single, right? These are also expressions that are used in similar way. Each of their, each of us, every, right? They all fit in the, every one of them, they all fit in the same category, right? So can we how about these expressions? Can we use, where do we use this, each of, or each of, every one of? Do we use them with countable or uncountable nouns? What is your judgment? Do we use them with countable or uncountable noun? Each,
Countable.
countable, right? You should be able to count them. When you say each or each of, or how about every? Let me ask you that. Every, do we use it with countable or uncountable nouns? Can we use them with countable nouns? Let me put it that way. So this is a busy airport. You can see a flight either taking off or landing every 10 minutes. Countable? Yes, right. Minutes are countable. Time is uncountable, but minutes are countable, right? So that's possible. This is again something that you use, this expressions, or this quantifier expressions can be used again with countable entities. Okay. Yeah, so you need to have a list of these things. I mean, I don't mean to say make a list of it, but you need to take a look at your PPT and see how these expressions are used. Particularly, keep an eye on whether they are used with countable or uncountable nouns. Okay, of course, you should know where they are used. Are they used to indicate sufficient quantity or less quantity or more quantity, or all of that? That you should be, that's a part of the knowledge of where and how this can be used. But grammatically you should also know whether you are able to use them with the countable or the uncountable ones. Okay. Yeah, otherwise it's an easy thing. There's nothing, it's not a complicated topic as such. It's a very straightforward mechanism to use them. Yeah. Okay, that's from my side. Do you not have any questions? At this point I'm just trying to fill in time because you don't have questions.
Ma'am, can you explain gerunds and participles?
Gerunds and participles. So the ing participles are sometimes also used as gerunds. So when they're used as gerunds, they are not verbs, they are nouns mostly. So if I say that swimming is good for health, then swimming here is not a verb, no? Even if it has an ing inflection on it. Usually, ing is when you have to indicate the progressive, continuous form of the verb. But in this case, this is a gerund, right? When I say swimming in this case, it's the name of the activity, swimming, right? Or walking for an hour every day improves your, circadian rhythm or something. So again, I'm referring to walking as an activity. Okay, horse riding is my favorite sport. Again, ing, but this is a gerund, right? It's a noun-like usage, the name of an activity. When you have a nominal use for that, then we call it a gerund. And ing participles, you have two. You have the ed participles and the ing. Ed referred to as the past participle in popular literature on grammar, and the ing being present participle. Okay. That's the story of the participles, and participles do not have tense on it, which is why it is, um, you know, sort of contradictory to say past participle and present participle. But then it's okay. That's about naming. We don't have to bother.
Can
Gerunds are nouns.
participles behave as verbs?
Participles are verb forms. Okay, they're forms of verbs, but they do not usually carry tense on them. Okay, they're like model verbs. Model verbs also do not have tense. And we say no tense because they do not inflect, right? If they have tense on it, then they should be, for example, you should be able to say, add all these ed and ing markers to them, right? Which are markers of past tense and progressive forms and all that. But model verbs do not inflect. And participles, they are a form of verb, again, something that doesn't carry carry tense on them. Okay, but they're certainly forms of verbs.
When the visiting professor here, visiting is a gerund or participle?
Visiting is a participle here, visiting professor. Yes, that's right.
It it is like acting as an adjective actually.
Yes, that's right. It's acting as an adjective. The ing forms and the ed forms can also become adjectives, like an
So
interesting class,
if it
right?
acts as a noun, then only it is gerund. Otherwise, it is participle only.
Ah, yeah, yeah. That's what I told you. Gerund is only when it acts as a noun, when it can have nominal properties, right? But otherwise, ed and ing can also, like you very rightly mentioned, they can be adjectives, right? Like in the case of visiting professor. Visiting is an adjective that modifies the noun professor. Okay. And participles are verb forms, but without mets. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? If you do not, we may close for today and look for your, see through your syllabus. If there's anything that stands out and you think needs explanation, you may ask them. Even, until your exam commences, right? So I think maybe till Saturday you can look through, and if you have questions, you can post on the forum. People will respond to it. Any more questions for me at the moment? No? Is it true that most weightage in the upcoming exam is from week 9 to 12? Um, no, Vanshi, because if you have all the 12, then they'll have questions from all of them. Okay. Now, which one takes more and which one would take less is not a question that I can answer. You be prepared with all of it, to be on the safer side. You will have, I mean, it's better not to lose out on questions that are quite simple. You will have questions from all of the units. What we are told is that it's an equal weightage exam. So I trying to tell you that there's more focus on 9 to 12. I don't think I'll be right to say such a thing, right? What if they decide to alter it and give you something from the other unit? Then I don't want to take that blame. Equal weightage. So if you're finding difficulty with respect to time and all, at least run through the PPT. If not all the lectures, you probably have already watched by now, right? So brush up. Just go to that. Maybe look at the exercises that we have done. Maybe run through the sessions if you have attended. Learn the rope and all, right. You don't have to sit with all the 1 hour recording, just forward it, see what has been discussed, what answers have been looked at, what questions have been looked at. That should help you. But at least look through the PPT, if not the whole lecture. That should help you. And more importantly, please look at the questions, the practice questions. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, fine. Then if you have no more questions, then we can wrap up. Should that be okay? Mock session. What is a mock session, Dipankar? Are you referring to revision session? Mock, if you're referring to the mock paper, that I
Ma'am,
think they'll release
I
it.
mean that, I mean that overall on the topic, all the topics, some
Hmm.
questions based on all the topics.
That's a mock test, no? That you will, I think they might release it by tomorrow or so. Okay. If not, just post, just check in the morning. If it's not released by 10, then maybe just remind, just post on the forum about it, and somebody will look at it. They'll take a look at that and do the needful. Punctuation, like some, no. I didn't get your question quite well, Gurkirat. And punctuation, mostly, I think you need to know the use of commas. Once that's the most commonly asked punctuation question for you. Semicolons and the other things we usually do not. At least I have not seen as many questions on any of those. Comma, splice, the series comma, all of those you should know how to use. And I think last exam you had the restrictive and non-restrictive clause thing. So those are the ones I think mostly they ask you, right? So if it's a non-essential clause, then you do not you mark it off the comma. If it is an essential clause, then you do not use any comma, right? Let me try to give you an example. I don't know if that's a question you're asking because it's not very clear what the question in the chat is not very clear. Yeah, so maybe we'll use this example. My sister who lives in New York is an okay. Look at this sentence. Do we need commas here or not? What's your judgment? My sister who lives in New York is a singer.
Yes, ma'am.
We
I
do need,
think
right? Yeah, we require commas here because we are looking at we are looking at a non-essential clause, right? I can very well say my sister is a singer. So who lives in New York is an additional information. It's a non-essential piece of information. If I take it out, it's not going to, it's not going to bring about any major change to the sentence, right? We're only adding a piece of information there. My sister is a singer is well and fine, but adding my sister who lives in New York is a singer is giving it a descriptive angle. So you're basically just adding an adjectival clause there, right? Who lives in New York. I take it off and still it's an okay thing. Nothing happens to the sentence at large. So here we need commas, right? My sister, comma, who lives in New York, comma, is a singer, right? But look at something like what example do I? Yeah. So, second. Students who work hard get good grades. How about this one? Students who work hard get good grades.
Ma'am, no commas.
No commas. Why? Because these are essential. The
Yes, ma'am.
subordinate clause that you have, who work hard, it's an essential clause, right? You remove it and it makes no students get good grades. Doesn't sound that amazing, right? Or not even that amazing. It's about that there's something is missing, right? There's a context missing there. Who gets good grades? Right? The one who work hard gets the good grade. So here you don't have to separate it off with a comma because it's an essential clause. You may find also the name restrictive and non-restrictive, but I like to keep essential and non-essential. So non-essential is basically non-restrictive and essential is the restrictive one. It restricts and hence you put comma. The other one doesn't, so you do not use any comma, right? Okay. So this is one case of punctuation. And then second is, of course, comma splice. That is when you have two compound sentence, you have a compound sentence, right? Wherein you join two compound sentence, what happens? So if you want to join two compound sentence without adding a coordinating conjunction like and or but and all that, you use a comma in between them, right? So for example, I love tea, comma, I drink it every evening, right? This is a case of a comma splice. If you put a comma there, let me write that sentence and show you. I like tea. I drink it every morning. Every morning. Sorry. Okay, so this is wrong punctuation. I like tea, comma, I drink it every morning. You do not write it like this. Comma here is wrong. Instead, what should you be writing? You should be adding, either you should separate this two sentence, right? Paste. So the right way of presenting the sentences, one is this, right? You separate the both sentence. I like tea, full stop. I drink it every morning, full stop. Okay. Second way is that you add a conjunction, right? So you remove this comma after tea, after the first simple sentence. And then you add, I like tea and I drink it every morning, right? So either you add a conjunction there or you separate the two sentences by inserting a full stop for after the first sentence, then it is okay. But you don't put a comma. You don't say I like tea, comma, I drink it every morning. This is called a comma splice, right? Wrong punctuation. The right way, the way to correct it would be the two ways that I've presented. I like tea, full stop. I drink it every morning, full stop. Or alternatively, I like tea and I drink it every morning. This is the right way of doing it. Okay. Then you have the series comma. So if there are more than two things in the list, right? There's a list and there's more than two things in the list, then you use a series comma. Series comma again is a very important thing in writing. People need to know that. So if you have to say, for example, I like or I eat, let's say, I eat oats, eggs, and apples for breakfast, right? If you have a sentence like this, and they ask you if there is a punctuation required, then how do you rewrite it to make it right? Where do you insert a comma here? Is the comma missing in this sentence? Where will you put it?
Ma'am, after end.
After eggs. Yes. So you put a comma after this, right? So this is the right way to. I eat oats, comma, eggs, comma, and apples for breakfast. So whenever you have a list like this, right, and um, there's more than two entities in that list, then you separate them using a comma. So the three cases that we have discussed of the comma here. First one is of the essential and non-essential clauses. Second one is that of the comma splice, right? When you have two sentences, compound sentences, then you do not join them using a comma. Instead, you either separate them out into two uh, different sentences or you add a conjunction. And the third one is the series comma, where you have a list which has more than two entities, uh, wherein the second last entity takes a comma after it. No, the entity that comes before and that series. So these are the three instances of comma. This is what I remember. I do not know if there are more in the lecture. These three, if you know, you are good to go. You are not an awesome English writer, but still, you're an advanced user of the English language. So
Ma'am, can you tell about that clause?
sorry,
That clause.
that clause. That clause. What about that clause?
I
Can
think it
either
is
be used in the
used in
subject
a,
position
yes,
or in
ma'am,
the
yes,
object
ma'am.
position. It can come anywhere. Okay,
I think it's used in five way, right?
five way.
I
I'm
heard in
not
the
aware of any five ways in which they're used. I just know that they can either be used in the subject or the object position, right? Sometimes, if it's in the subject position, most of the times it takes up the uh, nominal role, right? It functions off as a noun clause that can happen. So, example, uh, that she wrote so much in a less time surprised us. So in this case, the whole chunk with the that clause becomes your subject. Okay, that she wrote so much in a less time, subject, surprise verb, and us object. Or sometimes that can also appear in the object position. Okay. Besides that, what else do you want to know about that clause? Sure. That clause can also be a relative clause. Okay, but um, maybe I think we'll use examples. Take a look at it. Let me give an example. So the first case was that she is a scientist who surprised me. Just use the same surprised me. So this is one use. Then I want to this. The book that was kept on the table was mine. Then third one is the regular one that you can do. She said that he loved her. Okay. So these are the three positions that that clause can take in a sentence. That she's a scientist surprised me. So that she's a scientist. This is what? This is your subject. That clause acting as your subject. The book that was kept on the table was mine. That was kept on the table. Here uh, is your relative clause, right? Which is modifying the noun, the book. So here it is a relative clause, right? Uh, or adjectival clause. Relative clause and adjectival clause are the same thing. Then last one, she said that he loved her. So she said what? Here again, it is in the object position. So these are three different positions where that clause can be seen in a sentence. Okay. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you tell about where is the parenthesis use? What is the purpose of using a parenthesis?
Parenthesis can have several functions. I think we need to watch the lecture for that, right? It's in connection to some uh, writing module. I think this has come up, if I'm not wrong. Usually, where do you use parentheses? When you have to add a non-essential information, right? Or you want to add an additional information, something that is not crucial to the understanding, but something that is like an extra information, or something that is non-essential, or when you want to clarify something, right?
Ma'am,
Provide an
what is the
example for something.
difference between the parenthesis and bracket?
Parenthesis is a more formal name that you use for brackets. It's the same thing. I don't think there's a difference between brackets and parenthesis. And parentheses, they're used for, a number of purposes. I don't think it's just one or two. When you're enlisting, you can use it. Adding additional information would require use of parentheses sometimes. When you want to mention something that is non-essential, again, you can use that. If you're giving examples, you can use that. If you're trying to clarify, add something a bit more so that there's clarification, you can use that, right? Uh, yeah. In grammar, mostly, I think in writing and grammar, these are some of the uses. Of course, it has other functions, but then that we are not going to look at, right? Mostly in English grammar and writing, these are the functions that parenthesis performs.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
sure. Uh, all right. Is that all? We'll close for today then. If there are no more questions.
Ma'am,
Okay. See you then. All the best for your exams.
ma'am,
Hope you do well. Yes.
ma'am, that versus which, ma'am?
That versus which?
Yes, ma'am.
No, please complete your question. What do you mean by that versus which?
Me, where to use that and where to use which, ma'am?
Uh, when do you use that and which is the question, right? Actually.
Okay, it depend upon the question.
No, of course it depends on the question, but I'm asking. So see, even the use of that and which is also related to whether the given clause is restrictive or non-restrictive. Okay. So if you
Okay.
have you can use both actually, but whether you use that or which depends on whether the clause is introducing a restrictive or a non-restrictive thing, right? So if it's a restrictive clause, then it means that it is the information in the clause is necessary, like the examples we saw, right? So in such case, maybe if you look at this example, let's look at the example which we have already used here. Where is it? My sister who lives in, oh, this one has who. Okay. Let's change the question a little bit then. Otherwise, One with that and one with which I'll give you. So, uh, the article which
Ma'am, I have a
professor.
sentence like whether to use that or which in that.
Hmm. You can go ahead and give your
Ma'am, this is the
sentences. Meanwhile,
this
I'll
is the
also
dog.
give myself.
This is the dog. That we have to fill in the blank like that or which
Ah,
was hurt in the stampede.
this is the dog that was hurt in this.
That or which, ma'am, we have to fill in. That was hurt in the
No, what is
stampede.
the full sentence? Give me the full sentence.
Ma'am, this is the sentence only, ma'am, actually.
Yeah, say that again.
And this is the dog that or which was hurt in the stampede.
Was hurt. So this one requires which, right? Because it's an essential clause. You can't say the dog uh, in the stampede, right? Which was hurt in this is the dog which was hurt in the stampede. Is that what you gave me?
Yes, ma'am.
So this one requires which because whatever follows it is essential, without which the sentence will look odd and incomplete.
Okay, which is used
Okay.
for essential clauses.
Essential, yeah. Whenever there's you need to introduce an essential clause, you use which. And look at the example in the chat also. The article which the professor suggested is important. So, which the professor suggested, without that, you're just going to say the article is important, and that gives you a very little, idea. But which the professor suggested is an essential clause. Okay, it makes it more restrictive in nature, right? So, not all articles, but the one which the professor suggested is important. So, it's an essential clause or it's a restrictive clause, hence you use which. But if it's a non-restrictive clause, then you could either use that or which. It doesn't matter. Okay, that or which
Okay,
will go, both will go. But in this case, maybe which. Okay,
thank you.
yeah. Okay, okay, all right. So we'll wind up for today then. See you all again sometime soon, I guess. But all the best for your exams. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everyone.
ma'am.
See you. Yeah. Thank you.